everybody, welcome back to the Chaotic Little Book Corner. My name's Acacia. Today we're going to be doing my first part of my April wrap-up. This is the 13th, 14th? I don't know. It's the middle of the month. And I've read 7 books, which is pretty respectable, especially considering one of them was Jane Eyre. And my edition is 600 pages. Now, I will admit I sat down and read Jane Eyre while I was sick. I had 4 days where I was bedridden. So in those 4 days, I read quite a bit. Anything else? So I'm actually going to go... I'm going to do this a little differently than I usually do. I'm going to go in order of enjoyment. So here's my thoughts on book rating at this point. I use my star system on Goodreads, and I've gotten a little annoyed with it lately because it doesn't seem to accurately depict how I feel about books. I probably should just go back through Goodreads and just really review deeply every single book in that system because this is getting ridiculous. So for me, I don't like giving star ratings because I don't really feel like they actually explain how I feel about a book. Usually I like to talk to you guys about it anyway. It feels more authentic. And so I'm not going to give these star ratings. For me, it's usually 5 is like amazing. I want to shove it into everyone's hands. 4 is amazing, but I could care less if you read it. I would really like you to, but like, I'm not going to push it into your hands and be like, put this on your shelf now. 3 stars means it meant nothing to me. I neither hated it nor loved it, and meh. And 2 stars I don't usually use because if I feel anything less than meh about a book, I hate it. So that's kind of where I'm at with the star rating. So let's just jump right in with this. See how it goes, kind of chat, see what you guys think. If you guys don't like the style of this video, let me know. I'll change it again. I'll keep going until I find something that we all agree on. Okay? All right. So first one is Baboon. This is by Najim Marie Adit, and this is translated by Dennis Newman. This is a Danish short story collection written by a Danish author who has won many awards, and I have to admit, I didn't disenjoy any book this month. I will tell you that right off. But this one left me feeling confused. I liked it. I felt like it was beautifully written. But I felt like a lot of the stories, because it's a short story collection, I felt like a lot of the stories I was kind of dropped off in the middle of a story. It wasn't really, I don't know, maybe it was the translation, maybe it was the stories themselves. I'm not really sure. I will continue to look for this style of writing in the Danish world because this was very lyrical and beautiful and very emotional, and the relationships were very honest and adequate, and it was bizarre and honest and depressing. It was just a lot of good things, but a lot of weird things. I was sent this for review by Two Lines Press. Now, I wanted to do a full review of this and the other book that they sent me, which was Quiet Creatures on the Corner, which I spoke about before as well. And I think I'll do a joint review of the two of them because they both left me in the same confused state. And I'm thinking it might be because they're translated. I don't know. They kind of both left me dazed. This is my 4th and final Europa publishing book that I was sent for review. This is The Days of Abandonment by Elena Ferrand. Oh, I saw this reviewed by Brooke. Felt I wanted to check it out. I ended up requesting this as well as 2 other books, and they sent me an extra one that I was not expecting, which was very nice of them, and that one was on Parkinson's. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a full review on the set of 4 discussing identity. This is kind of the story of a woman who gets left by her husband and she starts to really lose it and go deeper and deeper into a depression and spiral out of control with her madness, and it gets dark, it gets weird, it gets warped. I enjoyed it, but I wanted to enjoy it more because of all the hype around it. It just didn't... I think I was so hyped up that I thought it was going to be something that it wasn't. That was kind of a bummer. But I did enjoy it, and I will talk more in depth about it in the set of 4 review that's coming up. Another book that I read was Bones and All by Camille DeAngelis, and this was a Brittany Under the Radar Books recommend, so thank you, Brittany. This was a really interesting look at a very different topic that I'd never seen done before. This talks about a young girl who suffers from cannibalism, which I wish they'd kind of touched a little bit more on what the human psyche does after it eats human meat. I feel like there was some points where they could have really expanded on that and what that does to the psychology of a human. But it's definitely a coming of age story. She is left by her mother, who has been covering her tracks for years, and that's where the story begins, and she goes on a journey of self-discovery and to try and find her father. It's not like anything else I've ever read. I had this a lot with this month. I had a lot of weird fiction that just kind of left you going, huh. So yeah, I felt like it was a really great book. I felt like it had some really good family dynamics, and I think it had a lot of good self-reliance aspects to it, but I think there was something was missing that I wanted it to have. Something just wasn't matching for me. Then we did our 4-day bedridden sick day, and we read Jane Eyre, and this is Charlotte Bronte, and if you guys don't know Jane Eyre, where have you been? I had read this before when I was in high school, and I loved it, and I still love it, but the character Bertha stirs a little anger in me because of a lot of things. Mostly because of how she's treated and how there's this element of wild animal aspect to her. Like, she's completely uncontrollable and unsustainable. And yeah, I understand that the mental health community was not as well-rounded as it is today in this day and age, and mental illness was not as understood, but there's still like this element of this dangerous monster. It's just meh. Bothers me, but what you gonna do? I don't know how I would respond if I was locked in a room and slowly going mad. I don't know. Probably not well. They're weird fiction. This is The Listeners, and this is by Lenny Zumas. This is almost written in short stories, but not. So it's very short chapters, very short in ideas of that nature. It's got a lot of references to octopus. It's the story of a young girl who has left the music industry and is now coming back to her home and is coming back in contact with her family, and she suffers from a mental illness, and she's really struggling to get back into the world. Actually, so the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to do a full review on this because saying it in this like 2 minutes is not going to work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read Soul of an Octopus and review that alongside of this, because the octopus has some very interesting spiritual and psychological, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Representations in this book. So I want to kind of compare and contrast on that. And that's how I'm going to do that. So we will get back to that one, but it was good. Do not think that it wasn't good. I was very happy with it. It was written beautifully. It was eloquently put together, but it was, if you're not into weird fiction, don't go near it because it's weird. This one, though, weird fiction, but you should try it. Like, if you don't know about weird fiction, I'm sorry. Just try it anyway. This is the new and improved Romi Such. This is by Julia Elliot. I will link Mercedes' review of this down below because 100% agree. Just agree. All around. Agree. This was amazing. Read it in 2 days. Couldn't put it down. It was so good. Cult classic. Yes, I think so, Mercedes. I think so. The story, I feel the same way as Mercedes does. Going in with very little knowledge of it is the best way to go in. But I will start with telling you that Romie is a gentleman who is in his middle his middle-aged days, and he is definitely suffering from a bit of a midlife crisis after a divorce, and his physical appearance is kind of deteriorating, and he's into a lot of drugs and alcohol, and he needs to clean his act up, and something comes along, an opportunity, and it changes him forever. So this was my favorite read of the month. Now, I really thought that Romi and Futch was going to be my favorite read of the month, and I wanted it to be, and I think it would have been had I not read this first. This I got for review. Now, I started reading this at one point, and I was not really impressed, and then one day I was like, all right, I'm just going to power through this, because I was sent it for review by Quercus Books. And I was sent this with the chimes. This is Alice and the Fly by James Rice. Now, I sat down and I was like, all right, I need to just read this. Because the way it's written in diary entry form for the most part. It's written in the diary entry form from a kid who suffers from some sort of illness. You don't really know what in the beginning. He has a fear of them, which you don't know what them are. And he has he's the weird kid in school, and he's writing to you. So the story itself is a story of a young boy who has schizophrenia, and he has a fear of spiders, who he calls them, and he has hallucinations about these spiders. And he falls in love with a young girl who smiles at him once, and he becomes infatuated. So the whole book is written in diary form, think Perks of Being a Wallflower, and then it is interrupted by the occasional police notes where the policeman is interrogating people in this boy's life because something has happened and you don't know what, and he's asking questions about, did you know this, did you understand that? And oh my god, it was amazing. So that is my first part of my April wrap up. Little confusing, little weird. It was a lot of weird readings this first half. The second half that I'm getting into, I seem to be getting into a lot of weird fiction as well. I'm super happy with this reading month so far. And I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye!